Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather, and on this channel we like to walk a very fine line between a shopping addicted makeup monster and a responsible adult with a makeup hobby. Now, I really enjoy eyeshadow singles, duochromes, multichromes, blush, highlight, lip gloss, basically everything except pressed glitter, and today we're going to do a quick ranking of my Lunar Beauty eyeshadow palette. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick with me. We're getting into it right now. Now, I really thought I had more palettes from Lunar Beauty, but I think I only have 6 at this point, excluding their blush palettes. Now, blush palettes, you know, they are beautiful and I do really enjoy the quality, but I just didn't think I could rank them with the eyeshadow palettes, so I did leave them out of the list. But coming in at number 6 is the Nude Prism palette, and I put this one down at 6 because I think I've only used it like once, and it was to dip into like a handful of these mattes, and then I dipped out to go find a metallic somewhere else. So this one just doesn't have the same appeal to me as the other eyeshadow palettes, so I had to rank it, you know, pretty low. As far as quality, I have no objections, but the warm tone neutral color story is not really my bag. Definitely bought it to complete the collection. Coming in at number 5 is the Moonspell Volume 2 palette, and this one I do think is pretty, but it suffered a lot because whenever they made the transition over to Chinese manufacturing, everybody sort of dogged this palette pretty hard, but I think going forward people have accepted the formula and have had no issues with it, so I'm not sure why this one had to be dogged so badly, but I do think there are some standout shades in this particular palette. Luna is one of my absolute favorites, and Agatha I think is really pretty as well, so these top 2 shades I think are quite nice. And I do really like sort of the purple pinky kind of shades that are in here. I don't gravitate as much to the warm toned orangey red shades, and I do appreciate that there's a black in here. So there are some nice shades in here. I think it's a little big. I wish it was a little bit smaller, but it came down a little lower because it's just not my favorite color story. Next up, and I really thought this was going to be like number 1, but I did go ahead and rank it at number 4. This is the Moonspell Volume 1. Now, if I was ranking purely on packaging, this would be number 1. I would be taking no questions. But when I open up the actual color story and look at it, it's very like light to mid-tone. There's not anything that's really deep and dark in this palette. So I think that makes this palette suffer a little bit. I do think the metallics in here are quite nice, especially Mary, Prue, Phoebe, and even Fiona I really like as like a deep kind of teal to brownish black duochrome. Pretty colors, but because there's no depth in the palette, I find it hard to actually just use this palette by itself, so it came down a little lower. Coming in at number 3 is the Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse palette, and this one definitely brings depth, right? This has a beautiful color story that ranges from really light to really dark, which I appreciate. I love this super aluminum foil silver shade in here and the gunmetal silver that's in here. I'm so sorry if you can hear my kids talking over top of me. They are super loud at the moment. In general, I think the blues in here are pretty as well, but I do think this blue, I wish there was a lighter blue to blend that into, because otherwise you're blending it into like the gray, or maybe could get away with blending it into that shade. But either way, I think it kind of loses something at that point. So I do wish there was a lighter blue to blend this into, but in general, I still think this is a really banging formula. All right, coming in at number 2 is Siren Sunset, and I kind of dogged this palette when I first got it and tried it because I think some of the mattes in here are really similar, so I'm not sure you needed all of them. Like this shade, this shade, this shade, this shade. When you start blending these together, I think they all kind of blend into the same tone, so that was kind of a letdown for me. I do really like this Silver Sea shade that's in here. I like the iridescent multichrome Water Nymph. Temptress and Siren, of course, very pretty. The multichrome formula in here is a little bit thinner than something like a Divina or a Cleona, but I do still think it's pretty nice. And overall, I like that you go light to very deep and you have multiple depth options here. I think this one would actually probably pair pretty well with Moonspell Volume 1 in terms of allowing then the depth to really be brought out with those colors. And then coming in at number 1 is Strawberry Dream. And it's funny because this palette I was never even supposed to own. I did not purchase this palette. I was given this palette by Lunar Beauty because they meant to send me Moonspell Volume 1, but they mislabeled my box and somebody else's and basically sent me somebody else's order and them my order. And this was a gift from my aunt. So when I got it, I was like, I'm a little confused because I definitely appreciate this palette, but this is not what you told me you were getting me. So I was just checking, and she's like, no, that's not even what I ordered you. So I had to contact Lunar Beauty, and they were like, oh gosh, just keep the palette, we'll send you a replacement. And so I ended up keeping this one for free, which is awesome. But I do really like this palette. I love this blue diamond iridescent blue sparkly shade. It's so sparkly and shimmery on the lids. I love using it. Every time I come into this palette, I have to use it. I like the bright pink that's in here. I like the blues that are in here, and I like that, of course, you get a lot of depth in this. The sort of like cranberry nature of the undertones for the pinks in this palette, I do really appreciate, and I think they're very flattering on the lids. So this one came all the way up to number 1. Now, obviously, this was not a super long list, but let me know in the comments, what are some Lunar Beauty palettes that you really like? Is there any that I should try that I haven't yet? Like, I haven't tried Life's a Drag, or the facelift version of Life's a Drag. Do I need to be checking that out? Let a girl know. I also haven't tried the Full Fantasy palette. That's the newer neutral palette they put out. So let me know what you think of that one, especially in comparison to the Nude Prism. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.